You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging with you guys, and good morning. Well, today we have a special podcast guest, somebody that I believe is a returning guest. I don't think this is your first show, Rory, but we're super excited about getting the lay of the land. He's got a lot of great stuff going on. Rory Kendall, the Patriot Lawn Specialist, all the way from, is it beautiful Oklahoma? Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
There you go, man. Have you been on the podcast before? I was going to say, I thought you've been at least once, no?
I have not. You wanted me to get on a couple years ago, and I never bit the bullet jumped on. So
yeah,
it's actually my first time.
Dude, no way. It's crazy because we've had the show for a few years now, and I've known you for 4 or 5 years at least, and it's crazy. So, well, dude, I'm glad to get you on the show, for crying out loud. It's funny, like you get guests on and you don't even get your friends on, for crying out loud. Way to go, Fullerton. But it's all good, man. It's all good. It's a great time to get you on the show, though. I will say this: you and I talk quite often. I know you're, man, expanding business. The wheels are always turning. You got a lot of great stuff going on. I know, your success and the growth the last couple of years has been just awesome, and you're hungry for it, man. You got a lot of great things going on. So I feel like this is going to be a really good podcast and very relatable one for a lot of guys out there. But before we go way down the rabbit hole, I always like to kind of get the 2-minute highlight, reel. Your background, where you're at, where you're coming from, in case anybody doesn't follow you on social media like I do. So where are you coming from, and what's your story so far, brother?
Yeah, well, to start off, I figured it'd be a good birthday present for me. Today, the day of this recording, is actually my birthday.
Hey, well, happy birthday, man. Congrats. There you go.
But, back in, so I joined the service in 2010, and I just did 3 years in it. And I was a combat engineer, so I did route clearance. So in Afghanistan, we actually drove down the roads looking for IEDs and improvised explosive devices, if nobody knows what that is. But
that's awesome.
In 2013, when we got back out of Afghanistan, I was like, I don't think I want to make a living doing that. So I came home. A lot of my family members are journeyman highliners, so they're all union. And I jumped on that bandwagon and did that for about 2 or 3 years. And that's when my wife, Kelsey, got pregnant with our first daughter. And as we were getting closer to her due date, I started realizing that my dad was gone a lot during my childhood. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. So a gentleman that we go to church with, he runs a machine shop, and he said, hey, stop by and talk with me. So I went in and worked at the machine shop for a year or two. And he told me, he said, you ever thought about mowing yards? I was like, well, yeah, when I was little, I mowed yards, and he's like, well, no, for a business. I was like, well, he's like, well, I'll tell you right now. He said, you're never going to get rich working here. And I was like, well, I'm not looking to get rich. He said, well, go home and call 3 people. So, and that's 2015. I called 3 people, started mowing, was still working at the machine shop. I had a crane operator, family friend, call me and say, hey, call this union hall to go run cranes for them. So I said, okay. So I get that job, worked there for about 3 or 4 years. And I was up to about 10 or 12 yards. And in 2019, we were getting a lot more crane work, and I was starting to get a lot more phone calls.
Okay. And
so my boat was nowhere near the dock. It was like still out there in the ocean, just rocking in the waves. And,
sure.
and I was talking to Kelsey one night, and I said, the crane company was an hour away from where we live. We live in a little town, Vinita. It's in the northeast corner, and a lot of the guys say that they're from small towns. They got 50,000 people. Like I'm in a small town, like we have 15,000 in the whole entire county.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so
that's small.
So when they say small town, I'm kind of, but so I quit with the crane and just turned it on. It was an hour away, so I couldn't build the lawn care here in town and make the commute, because an 8-hour day, the cranes needed to be on the job for 8 to 10 hours. Well, I had to get to the yard before we had to be on job. So an hour there, an hour to get the crane set up, an hour to tear the crane down, an hour back. So my 8 to 10 hour day was a 12 or 14-hour day.
Yeah.
And made it really difficult to do the lawn mowing. Well, so I was talking to Kelsey. I said, I think I'm jumping ship. I think I'm just going to go into the lawn care. And she's like, can we survive? I said, no. I said, well, we can't.
That's awesome.
But I knew that I couldn't grow anymore. I think I had 23 or 24 yards at this time. And I was just like, I couldn't physically do it, because I can't, like I said, it's 12 or 14-hour day running the crane, and then coming home and literally have, even during the summer, I have 1 or 2 hours of daylight left during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I quit. And then, literally the day I quit, my last day there, when I came home, I went up to this larger gentleman, and I said, hey, I'm just getting into the business. I don't want to step on nobody's toes. If you have any overflow, I'm one to take them, and I've known this gentleman pretty much my whole life. And so he kind of knew me, but I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to go stealing yards. I didn't want to be the cheap guy. So that evening I had 5 more yards just from talking to him. And it's pretty much just been going up and up ever since then.
Wow. And that's from what, 2018, 19-ish to today? Is that when you got the career kind of started?
I quit my full-time job in 2019.
Okay. Wow. That's I love the it made me laugh, and everybody else listening in laugh when you're like, absolutely not. We are not financially where we need to be, but we also need to make a change. And it's funny. You always want to be like the hero, for the spouse and the wife and the family, and say, no, we got it all figured out. And that even so happens today with Liz. Liz's like, we're going to be good. Everything okay? I'm like, yeah, of course, and, and then you're like, boy, I have no idea how I'm going to solve that problem. And whether it's a $2,000 problem or a $20,000 problem or a $200,000 problem, I'm sure we've all been there, done that. So that was actually pretty funny. Well, that's cool, man. I know, or at least I believe, the last couple years have been really transformational for you guys. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you just come off a recent acquisition, or is that something that's still in the works? Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yes. Nope. That is yes, that's finished. So like I said, I spoke with that gentleman in 2019. In 2020, he called me and said he's thinking about selling his company. I said, well, don't ask me. I said, I have 30 yards. I have no idea how to run something that big.
Sure.
And so 2021 rolled around, and he called me again. He said, hey, I'm most likely not going to be mowing next year. I said, you're still too big. I just can't do it. Now I'm up to about 45, 50 yards. And he said, well, I have an employee that's wanting to take it. And I said, well, great. I said, I'm still willing to help. I'm buy a route or whatever off of you. And so that was 21. And 22 rolled around. He called me the week before Nashville, before Together in the Trades, and said, what's your schedule look like? I said, we're pushing 55, 60 yards. I said, I'm doing good. He said, well, the person that I had that wanted to buy my business can't buy it. I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean? He said, you're next in line. I said, I told you you're too big. I don't want it. He said, well, what about next week? Just coming over and working with us for a week. I said, well, I can't next week because I'm going to Nashville for this Together in the Trades deal. And I said, when I get back, I will, I'll think about it this week, and then I'll come back, because I knew I was coming down. I was going to get it to you, Paul. Have been doing it way longer than I have. Sure. So I started with Paul, and I hope Paul doesn't unfriend me, because he told me if I did it, he was going to unfollow me on Instagram. So please don't unfollow me, Paul. But that's 22. I was running some numbers, and of course, like I said, I didn't know a whole lot. and now we're down towards the end of the year. And I told him, I said, I can't do all of it. It's just too big. So he said, well, what about half? I said, I can do half. Well, December 15th literally right at the end of the year, I just said, I can't do it. I said, I'm backing out. I'm not going to do it. He said, well, one more year. He said, I'm literally going to let you take over the mowing. You put everybody on schedule. You're in charge of hiring, firing. If we need new equipment, we'll talk about it, this and that. He said, one more year. And I said, okay. Well, I brought another guy on, and he's local in town, and we were going to split it. So he ran one half, I ran the other half. And this is very unconventional. Like, this doesn't happen to everybody, so that's why I've had plenty of time to crunch the numbers and everything.
Yeah.
And so Eric with Yardbirds, he ran the other half, and I ran the half that I was going to get. Eric was going to run the half he was going to get. And everything was going good through most of the season. We had a couple meetings with the owner going over some numbers and stuff. And trades for 23 came back around, and I was able to talk with you. And I wasn't looking for a yes or a no. And that was in 22, I think I was looking for a no. And so 23 rolled around. I was still in it. And so I was starting to look for, how can I make this work? How can I do this? And so I spoke with you, and then, that's exactly what you told me. If everything looks right, if you can make it work, this and that. And I said, they gave me a lot of fuel, because that's what I was looking at, ways that I can make it work instead of, because if you look at negative stuff, that's all you see.
Of course.
And,
yeah.
And too, that's all I was looking for. And so trades rolled around. I was able to talk with you a little bit more. And then I seen shortly after trades, I think that's when Blake bought out that company. And I talked to Blake at trades in Nashville, and he said, don't do it. And so Equip rolled around in 23, and I said, hey, Blake, you told me not to do this, and you turned around and did it. Of course, I'm not mad at him. He's just trying to give advice too, and he said, well, I thought that. He said, but, this company came up, everything looked good. And I said, okay, well, thanks for the information. So that gave me a little bit more fuel.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then the end of the year rolled around, and Eric he had it back out. No harm, no foul. I still talk with Eric probably, once a week or so. Mm-hmm. He's still mowing his. He's got his own business. He's still mowing his. But so I took everything, and in January of this year, January 19th, we signed the paperwork, and now I have, with my 60 properties and his 90, I'm pushing 150, 160 properties.
Man.
So, like I said, I've hired everybody. The last group of employees, I hired everybody. So I've already worked with them, and they of course knew the acquisition was going on. So they have all stayed on with me. So
that's awesome.
That was fun.
Dude, that's awesome. It's there's a lot to unpack there. It's really, really cool to see and hear the growth, man. I'm pumped for you, and it sounds like 2024 is going to be obviously you guys' biggest year and best year ever. And there's going to be a lot to unpack for learning and working with people, and of course more customers, more expectations. That's exciting, man. I'm pumped for you. By the way, I don't remember what advice I gave you at Together in the Trades. I remember we talked, but usually I'm probably, this is how I operate. I'm usually I try to soundboard for people, because usually people come to me if we do a coaching call, and your guys' mind, with all due respect, is usually made up. It's you're like you said. I love what you said. Like if you're convinced that it's a good idea, you're going to look for reasons to do it. And if you look for reasons to not do it, you're going to come up with reasons not to do it, obviously. And so usually people want, and I'll speak for myself, usually just want a vote of confidence. Like, hey, man, what would you do? Do you think this is a good buy? Is there anything I'm missing? Anything that I'm not seeing, blind spot? That's usually the kind of conversation that I could be most helpful with, because if you're like, hey man, I want to go from 60 lawns to 150 in a year, and I don't have anybody lined up, I'm living out of my apartment, my wife hates me, and things are bent on the rocks. So I'm like, well, that answer is probably right in front of you. It's probably a fat no. But if you guys are like, I think it looks good, it's walking like a duck, it's talking like a duck, it's quacking like a duck, what do you think? I'm like, dude, yeah, that's a duck, man. Go for it. And I've got outside guys that I reference all the time. That I look for that nod of confidence as well, man. So I totally get it. So I'm not sure what advice I gave you at trades, but hopefully it was helpful. So
yeah, I mean, and that's it. It was just if the numbers looked right, if you can make it work. And like I said, I mean, that's what, like, I literally, I'm sitting at my desk right now. I mean, I have papers everywhere just from that, I have customers that I've got put all in my CRM now, but it's just, let's just call it, I was at $125,000 company, and then his payroll is, 140, 150,000. I'm like, sure. I can't do that. I mean, yep. But then if you add on his revenue, it's like, okay, now I have to start thinking with that revenue in mind. Yeah. Instead of how can I make all this work on $125,000, $150,000 revenue, when in fact it's
400, 500.
I mean,
yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome. Well, dude, that's good. I was gonna say, I'm gonna take a quick break here so I can get a sip of. I'm actually drinking the good old Coca-Cola. Can't kick the habit, folks. But I just got some Subway as I was driving home and getting ready for podcasting here with Rory. So we're going to do this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. For some of you guys listening in, maybe you guys can, if you want to hit double tap on the ads, that's fine. If you guys want to listen to them, that's fine too. I always appreciate the show sponsors and everybody that's backing the show up so we can bring you guys the content. So if you guys would give us your ear for just a quick minute, we do want to hear from today's show sponsors and announcements. And then we're going to come back. There's a lot here to unpackage with Rory, with the growth. New levels, new devils, I think is the saying. And I want to know more, Rory, about how you're managing cash flow, just finances in general, like how are things looking for the company? I think you are evaluating or are making changes CRM-wise and bookkeeper-wise. So there's a lot of, growth that's required from you personally, professionally, right? As your company now has just kind of doubled or tripled overnight, which is really, really exciting conversation, man. So let's do this, though, really quick. We're going to hear from today's show sponsors announcements. I'm going to get a sip, quote unquote, of water, and then we're going to come right on back.
Did you know that Ballard Innovative Products is celebrating its 25th year, bringing you the best gear for the lawn and landscape professional, weekend warrior, or home and garden enthusiast? From mower gear, safety gear, trailer racks, equipment securement, equipment servicing tools, chute blockers, mower blades, aluminum baggers, cleaning products, snow removal tools, and much more to make you efficient, effective, safe, and profitable in the field. Be sure to check out the Ballard-Inc.com website to help dominate and elevate your business this season. With over 30 years in the green industry, we're sure that we've got something you can't live without. Our website search by mower function now makes it easier than ever. New gear is being added all the time. Stay safe and keep grinding. Ballard.
All right, guys. Well, let's jump back into it here. Rory, we're going back to you, my friend. We're not going to waste any time here. Just a little bit of a recap. I feel like it's radio. If you guys are kind of rejoining with us, if you will. Our guest hails from, the beautiful state of Oklahoma. And there was a 15% chance that we were going to be neighbors, brother, because swear to God, Liz and I were looking at real estate everywhere in 2020. We had scrapped together like $100,000 in our checking account. I'm like, hey, we can go anywhere now. Like, we're moving, and Michigan was getting shut down, and all my buddies in red states were like, hey, man, the grass is greener on the other side, and it's crazy.
It is Bermuda, though. It is Bermuda. It's not Kentucky blue.
Is that right? Is that right? Does it still stripe, or does Bermuda stripe, or no?
Unless you grill mow it, no, it really doesn't stripe.
That's fair.
But
that's fair.
We're in the transition zone, so like a lot of our shade areas, we every year we oversee with tall fescue.
Gotcha.
We can get some stripes under the trees, and in yards that are pretty full of shade and have some irrigation. But
overall,
we're mostly
tall grass short.
Yep.
Well, I was hanging with Jeremiah Jennings at the Crest event just a couple days ago, and we were in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they had some beautiful Kentucky blue, maybe some fescue. I believe it was mostly Kentucky blue, unless I don't know my turf types over there, and it was beautiful. And Jeremiah was like, "Man, this stuff looks amazing. We don't get stuff like this. It's nothing stripes down back at home where he's from, and that's a foreign language to me. You know, you go down to Florida, it's all the different, Bermuda and Zoysia or whatever, and I'm like, it doesn't stripe. Like, to me, that I don't know. Like my OCD would get the best of me. So, but politics wise, hey, shout out to Oklahoma, man, red state, keep it going.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe the same way, that's fine too. I don't care. I respect what you believe. Respect what I believe. That's how we can work together, grow together. Amen. So,
oh yeah.
But I was like, hey, Oklahoma. I'm like, hey, what's the local city? What's the nicest city? What's the city that's growing? And I was messaging you almost every day for about 3 weeks. I remember. So,
yeah.
But maybe we'll still get a home out west or something like that. We'll still gotta figure all that out as we grow. But in terms of growth, man, you're the one that's got it going on. There's a lot to unpackage. We got probably a good 10, 12 minutes left of just our block for today. But talk to me about where you're at now. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Like, I know there was a lot of hemming and hawing back and forth. Do I do it? Do I not do it? I'm sure you and Kelsey were, talking about this every day. Of course, we want to grow. We want to make more money. But there's also more requirements, more responsibility. You got to change as a leader. Maybe you're not as much in the field as a technician, right? And you're, working on the business instead of in the business, as so many have said. One quick thing, last night, guys, we're actually on the Lawnpreneur Academy link live stream that we do weekly Wednesdays. And once a month, we have usually a big business owner guest on. That was the number one thing that folks wanted to see part of that group. And we had Sam Rankin on, who owns Etch Outdoor. And the dude just was talking about this for an hour, buying companies, acquisitions, how to look at the cost of a company, whether or not it's a good deal. He's grown fast. They went from like 50 grand to like 100 grand to like 400 grand, 800 grand, 2 million, 4 million. And I think they're like budgeted for like 6 million or something here. We're talking pretty substantial growth in just, a handful of years. So I feel like, Rory, like you're another guy kind of going through those rungs with your first acquisition and buyout here. So talk to me, man. Like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? How's it going?
Yeah. So I feel like we talk about this all the time. I mean, just everybody on podcasts and stuff like of course, payroll. Like I've had one guy under Patriot for the last 3 years, which has helped out a lot. And then even he worked with us under Lochner Lawn Care. That's the name of the company. And the guy told me, he's like, you don't have to pay him. I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm a business. I gotta have some write-offs here, man.
Right.
So I kept the one employee under my payroll, and so payroll was a big issue for me because I've never had to handle, like I said, $150,000 in payroll.
Right.
But after looking at some of the accounts, and that was the thing, that was another big factor, that he's had these large accounts in our town. Like we have a power headquarters, and they got like a 14-acre front yard that they want the whole thing mowed. And
wow,
and
heck yeah,
and we got a big Toro that we mow it with. But I was looking at these accounts that he's literally had. I mean, since I was a little kid, like he's the only guy that's ever mowed it,
Wow.
And so, and then once I got to see the numbers on it, besides just oogling over the big number, I'm like, but I got to make sure it works out, And then towards the end of the year, I was like, if I don't buy it, somebody else is going to buy it, because the guy that was actually next in line, he actually bought another company out also this year.
Okay.
So he was looking at the company that I was one. And I was thinking, if I don't buy it, this guy's going to buy it. And then I'm going to have to wait another 10 or 15 years to get these large accounts. And I know that's not something that you just buy a company off of just because it's, but accounts that do make lots of money, or can make lots of money, and those are the ones that keep us busy all year long.
Okay.
I mean, they're 12-month contracts. So that was another thing that I was looking at was his contracts. And if I don't have to use the money, that money I will be able to use to pay him back, because he did owner finance it. So like I said, it kind of fell into my lap that I was like, I kind of have to take this, or I'm not going to have this opportunity, So
I love that. If I can just interject really quick, I feel like there's a lot of folks that are looking to get out of the business and the industry that are 50 and 60 years old. They're not looking for $1 million out of their business, but 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand could go a long way. Maybe they have like you said, an $800,000 business, 5 guys working for them. Maybe they got some young guys that are 25 years old, and those guys still want to work. You might be able to scoop up some of these companies for pennies on the dollars, guys. Like, don't be so hesitant or reticent to assimilating these companies into your business. We talked about that with Sam Rimkin on that podcast a year ago, and he said, like, whether you're investing into marketing and acquisition, or you're just acquiring the company out of a purchase instead of just getting customers, you're just buying the company that has $1 million book of business. Like, look at the cost. If this is going to take you 5 years to build a $1 million company, or you can, seller finance, owner finance, $1 million company and just take it in house and pay that guy off over 5 years. It's kind of like you're skating, hitting the fast forward button. So it both make sense. But that's how some of these companies are growing. And even the big guys, they go from 10 million to 30 million, or 30 million to 100 million. It's not by exclusively passing out postcards and running some Google ads. A lot of the times they're buying up these smaller guys. So it's an interesting conversation, because 2 years ago you're getting some no's, or maybe no, not yet, versus now your eyes are probably opened up a little bit more, saying, hey, like, as long as this doesn't, take us out by the knees and we can cash flow the payroll and some of the expenses, like, this could be a huge blessing for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing I was going to say, just because I don't know. I mean, I know his top line from last year, but I bought it I know guys are probably wanting to know how to price it or whatever. I bought it for a third of gross revenue.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
So that was the price that I ended up paying. Of course, when we first started, he wanted pretty much gross revenue, and I was like, like, I'll leave right now. He was like, well, we can negotiate. And how that number actually came about was, I literally told him, I said it. He's like, well, what's your counter offer? I said, it's insulting. And he was like, well, what is it? And I told him, and he was like, let me think on it. And then, a couple of days later, he was like, come back over. Let's have a discussion. And so, yeah, we actually settled on 1/3 of the price. And so, he got a contract drawn up. I read over it 2 or 3 times to make sure there was nothing in there. I mean, and like you said, there's guys 50 or 60 years old. This gentleman is 72 years old and still works harder than half of the kids that we have that come into our company.
Sure.
I mean, this, and he told me one time, I said, why, I said, now that I've bought it, I said, why are you still working? Like, why, retire? And he's like, if I stop, I'm going to die. I'm like, well, I guess that's one way to look at it, but his kids are grown and they're all out of the house, so he's just an old timer that, he's got to be doing something. He never gets in a big hurry to do anything, but as long as he can keep moving, he said, as long as I keep moving, I make it harder for the Lord to put a target on me to take me. So I said, well, if that's the way you want to look at it, I said, just keep on. But
hey, I mean, guys, I've heard people selling their company and working in house. There's a big company by us that bought a tree company, and the owner now works for that company, for his company, for the company he sold out to. But he got let's say $1 million out of it for his retirement. And, he's coming on board now for, $100,000 salary, let's say, and running it, as an entrepreneur, in that organization. And then the resources of the big company now can help promote it, grow it, run the billing, the payroll, the AR, so that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking, and in my area, it's, like I said, we're a very small community, but there's word that we're going to have a big theme park put in the next 3 or 4 years. But I'll believe it when I see it. But
sure.
It's one of them deals. I figured, if I can learn and a rubber band's got to stretch in order to grow. I think you said that quite a few times, that if I can stretch and learn how to do this, then when the theme park does come to town, it's almost going to be nothing to start up another crew. I'll be financially ready or whatever to be like, okay, I'm just going to, go get me a truck, a trailer, and another setup, hire me some guys and say, here's your location to stay in this area, and that's the thing with the theme park. If it comes to town, that we don't have any HOAs. Like our nearest HOA is 35 minutes away, and we have all farmland from our town to the nearest HOA.
Sure.
So if this theme park comes to town, it's going to fill up that farmland that's out there, and we're going to have HOAs and stuff, So, we'll be able to get on the Brian's lawn maintenance schedule of, 35, 40 yards a day that everybody thinks impossible,
Yeah.
That, it cracks me up because I'm working on my own route density, and I know you don't do it. I know your area. I mean, I've literally been to Michigan multiple times, so I know your area. That when you park the truck and the mower unloads from the trailer, it doesn't get back in the trailer until noon or 3 o'clock when y'all get done. You know,
Yep.
I mean, it's like when we can ever, we have one section of we literally mow everybody on the block on both sides.
That's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
And it literally takes. I think there's how many. I think there's 9 houses. I take that there's 9 houses. We mow 7 of them. So, and we're there for an hour and a half or whatever. And I'm like, if Brian can do this 5 times a day, there's 35 houses right there. Yeah. I mean, well, it's easy to do once you have the route density to do it. And this gentleman fills in a lot of my blank spots.
That's what I was just gonna say or imagine. I'm like, if this guy already was at where you're at in a small town, now you go from being a name around town to being the dominating guy around town because your business doubled, and even if you only had one more crew, you got 2 trucks zipping around, and you can start gaining some serious momentum for your company. I mean, I can already visualize it and imagine it for you. It gets me excited because, that's just growth that you are looking to pursue with your company. And I feel like it's really seeing if you have what it takes, for your own, entrepreneurial journey of self-discovery, and you're ready for it, man. You've been around the block, with conferences and trade shows. I mean, you're a regular attendee, and I know you guys got it going on. And with Kelsey having your back, I can't see how you don't have the guts or the gumption to get the job done, man. So that's that is really cool. Yeah. What one thing I was going to ask, because I know you were texting me back and forth. Did you inquire to upgrade CRMs? Or are you still running? What are you running, or how are you guys making this acquisition? We got about 5 minutes left, but an important one because I know a lot of folks are trying to upgrade and see. No shameless plug if you did upgrade or don't upgrade. I was just curious where you're at on all that.
Yeah, I'm still using Yardbook right now, and
cool.
I have been thinking a lot of LMN. I've actually looked at all the CRMs over the winter, and like you've been able to promote recently, even on the live you had the other day, that it's like nobody has these budgeting building tools. Like everybody says, know your numbers. It's like, but how? Excel spreadsheets or just pen and paper, just write all these things down. It's like,
yep.
But then how do you calculate all that stuff? Like I was talking when I had my initial call with LMN about a month ago. I didn't know, since I'm still in the field, that they told me that the best way to do that would be to break up my salary would be half be labor and half be overhead.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, why is that? And she's like, because you're only in the field half the time. I'm like, no offense to Yardbook, but Yardbook doesn't do that.
Right.
They have the how much you want to, like the I forget what it is in Yardbook, and I have it set up, but I literally just threw a number in there, So I didn't know my numbers, but when you have software like that, like you get a new piece of equipment, all you have to do is plug it into LMN, and it will literally readjust your man hour rate. As where LMN, you would have to find that paper, write all that stuff back out, And so I haven't made the switch yet. I'm highly anticipating on making the switch. I'm a little nervous. After watching your live, that it makes a lot of sense, but it didn't seem as easy as Yardbook.
No.
Maybe that's because it's a lot bigger software, But I literally went with one company about 2 years ago, and I had to switch back because everybody promotes it, and I'm just like,
yeah.
I just didn't see it. It's like maybe it's because I was already so used to Yardbook, but like I can do invoicing in Yardbook. I feel like probably just as fast as you can in some other CRMs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so maybe it's because I've been running with it. Literally probably since like 2019. So I literally have about 5 years on that CRM that I know how to run it. So the change is always the hard part, but
it's one of those things where Sam Rankin, to go back to him one more time, he was like, I've used pretty much all of the CRMs, and they all have their pros and cons and what their strengths and weaknesses on. For me, it's all about finances and budgeting, and really looking at my real cost of doing business. I'm sure invoicing, and I know invoicing is probably more convenient with a couple of the other CRMs, but at the same point, it's like, where do you want to focus on? And for me, I was like, I need financial data as I look to grow in the scale and likely borrow more money, because you can cash flow this all you want, but you're not cash flowing to a $5 million company in 5 years, folks. It just it's not how it works. Another podcast for another time, but I want to make educated financial decisions. So that was what helped us make the jump. But I will tell you, we have so far probably put, I'd have to quantify it, but 20 or 30 hours into onboarding and looking at, Element and getting our templates set up and all this other stuff. And I'm glad that we've done it. Holy cow. I was telling Jeremiah Jennings, I'm like, let's not do that again, ever. And some of you guys have been there, done that. And I said on that live stream with Mark, if you guys haven't seen that YouTube video or the podcast episode, it was the Element launch party. It was a 2-hour just under the hood look at how the software looks. But once it's set up, now you can start ripping out templates or quotes pretty simply because we have our template set up. But admittedly, and I felt the same way, go figure, upgrading from Square, I was using Square, to Yardbook, back in the day. I'm like, oh my God, this is that, all those same feelings of like overwhelm and confusion, and I'm not a tech person, and I barely feel like a businessman half the damn time, all those same like fears and doubts and, that negative talk in your mind. I felt the same stuff graduating the Yardbook. I felt those same apprehensions, the same last 6-8 weeks, if you will, graduating the Element.
Yeah.
So I get it, bro. I get it. That's totally cool. I'm excited for you if you do intend to upgrade or look to upgrade, whether it's Element or not. I don't care. I don't have any equity in any of them. I wish. That'd actually be pretty dope. But if you do continue to grow at the rate you are, I feel like you might outgrow Yardbook. And again, I love Yardbook. They've been super kind. It's great folks, great CRM. I'm just noticing where we were at about 350, 400. I'm like, dude, I need more data. And so I feel like you're going to hit that, if not more, this year in 2024.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's my big deal. It's like, I know there's guys out there that use Yardbook and probably make more than me and you put together, but I'm like, but I feel like LMN, for one, Mark Bradley has built a $50 million company, it's like, and like you said, no shade on anybody else, but I don't think Yardbook is got a $50 million company being ran with it, you know?
Exactly. Or even I always say like $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, you know, it's, and again, I mean, it's not designed for that necessarily, to be fair. Yeah.
Yeah. If they have, feel free to DM me, you know, because I would, you know, if you can keep me from switching, that'd be nice.
Well, and I'll make the same argument for Yardbook. It's like, well, how many people are running a $50,000 company with LMN? It's like, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
It's just like different strokes for different folks, you know, and you got to figure out where you're at in business. If you got a small company, 0 to 250 grand, quote unquote, small, then, you know, Yardbook would be plenty fine for you. So again, I'm not here to give a pitch. I don't do pitches. I'm not going to do pitches. I am too exhausted in life to be giving out pitches on any of my content. You guys will never hear a hard, this is what you need to do. We don't do that. Other than you do need to make money. I will tell you that. That's my pitch. I will say we all work way too freaking hard for too little. And I'm going to try to do my best to help people not make that decision or that mistake, I should say, for a minute longer than they need to be. I'll tell you that. So
for sure.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, hey, I got to do a hard kind of pivot here because I've got another appointment here at 2:00. So, dude, this has been good. I'm glad to get just a good macro on what's going on with the company. We got to get you back on the podcast for sure. Let's not take 3 years to do that for crying out loud. You have so much more going on. I really do want to hear more about the growth and the success. Maybe we'll get like a summertime update or something. See how this first season under your belt's going with the growth and the acquisition is going, man.
I'm still alive.
Yeah. I'll touch base with you at trades, or if you guys aren't making trades, I'll catch up with you in June, July, August, and we'll see if you still have a pulse or see how you're doing. And if so, then we'll get that debrief, good, bad, or ugly. That'll be fun.
Right on. Yeah.
I love it, man. All right, man. Well, hey, let's do this real quick. I always like to sign off. Where can people find you? Maybe you got some folks in Oklahoma that want to reach out, say hey, or somebody's on the Instagram or the internet. Where's your handles, and we'll button it up.
Yeah. I have Instagram. More on Instagram than Facebook, but it's Patriot Lawn SPC, as in the abbreviation for specialist. And then Facebook is Patriot Lawn Specialist. That'll be my business page. And then I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't promote it because I have like 5 videos and I haven't put nothing on there in like 2.5 years. So,
hey, whatever. Like, comment, subscribe. Why not?
yeah, exactly.
Heck yeah, man.
Oh, and another thing, I do put my trash in a bin that I take out to the curb.
Do you put it in a trash bin? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you put it in a bag? Do you put it in a bag or just throw it in the bin?
It's in a bag in the kitchen, and then I tie it in a knot, and I throw it in a trash can outside that I take to the curb every week. Okay, but does it go in a bin? Yeah. I don't have chicken soup.
What the hell?
My garage door,
dude, that's so funny, bro. So I'm going to forward this episode to Jeremiah and Blake. Dude, it's wild. Okay, listen to the last 2 shows, folks. And then the Growing Green show. It's the stuff you learn and the stuff that you're like, why am I listening to this? But hey, I love it. It's dynamic conversation, right? For crying out loud. But you're one of the good ones. I knew there was something special about you guys. So, all right, man. Well, that's what we got for today. I got to get running here. Appreciate you, man. Have a good spring rush, and we'll look forward to catching up with you here soon. All right.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
You betcha. All right, guys. Well, hey, you guys also have a great rest of the day, and we will look forward to catching up with you guys here on the next one.
Ballard Products has what you need. If you're looking for one place to find all the gear you need, jump on Ballard-Inc.com. With over 30 years in the industry and now celebrating our 25th anniversary selling high-quality products, we've got your back. From mower gear, trailer racks, mower blades, safety gear, and so much more, you'll find everything you need to maximize your efforts and protect your gear in one place. And let's not forget about the carbide titanium gold blade options that cut amazing and last longer between sharpenings, giving you optimum performance in the field. We've got a bunch of new gear coming soon, so make sure that you're following Ballard to stay in the loop. Head over to Ballard-Inc.com today and get geared up. Now, go get after it. Ballard.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.